The transport ship landed on Epsilon Ridge with a soft hiss of steam and dust. Marcus Hale stepped down onto the rough ground, his boots crunching against the dry soil. The air smelled faintly metallic, mixed with the scent of distant rain. Around him, the colony shimmered with pale lights and tall structures half built from human steel and half from alien crystal. It was a place caught between two worlds, and no one really felt at home here. Marcus was a repair engineer from Earth. He had been sent to help fix the power system in the Scifi district, the part of the colony where the tall, silver-eyed aliens lived. Most humans avoided that side of the ridge. People whispered that the Scifi didn't like outsiders, that they considered humans too loud, too emotional, too quick to act. But Marcus didn't care much for gossip. He believed machines were the same everywhere. If you treated them gently, they would work for you. When he reached the Scifi sector, the colors changed. Their buildings curved like growing vines, glowing faintly blue in the dusk. The air felt cooler here, and the hum of energy filled the silence. A few Scifi passed by, tall and graceful, moving like flowing water. They wore long robes that shimmered like liquid glass. Most didn't even look at Marcus. He didn't mind. He only wanted to finish his work, fix the power grid, and get back to his small quarters before dark. Inside the power station, he opened a panel filled with crystal conduits. The wiring was nothing like Earth systems. The Scifi used light to move energy, their circuits pulsing like veins under translucent stone. Marcus frowned, studying the patterns. "Well," he muttered, "this is new." A soft voice answered behind him. "You are touching the heart lines." He turned quickly. A Scifi woman stood a few steps away. She had silver markings along her temples, and her eyes glowed faintly under the dim light. She carried a small set of crystal tools and a folded cloth. Marcus blinked. "Sorry, I didn't mean to break anything." "You have not broken it," she said gently. "But you do not understand it either." He smiled awkwardly. "That's fair. I'm still learning." Marcus Hale, human engineer. He extended a hand without thinking, then quickly lowered it again, remembering that some aliens didn't like to be touched. She noticed the gesture and gave a small nod. "I am Lyra of the Scifi. I was asked to assist." Her voice sounded calm, musical, each word carefully shaped. Marcus stepped aside. "Then I'm glad you're here. I could use some help. These heart lines, they don't match any human schematics." She came closer, kneeling beside the open panel. "Because they are not meant to obey your logic. They follow harmony, not control." He crouched beside her, watching the way her long fingers traced the glowing conduits. "Harmony, huh? Back home we call it power flow. Guess it's the same idea." Lyra tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Humans give names to things they do not yet feel. But perhaps you can learn." Her tone wasn't sharp. It was curious, almost kind. He found himself smiling again. "Then teach me, Miss Lyra." They worked together in quiet rhythm. She showed him how the light changed when energy moved correctly, how each connection hummed at a slightly different tone. Marcus began to listen rather than just look, realizing there was a pattern beneath the glow, like a song. He tried adjusting one of the crystals, and the hum deepened, turning smooth. Lyra glanced at him, her expression unreadable, then nodded slowly. "Better," she said. Hours passed. The hum of power grew steady again, the lights above flickering back to full brightness. Lyra stood brushing dust from her robe. "The storm damaged more than wires," she said softly. "It frightened the people. They think the balance is breaking." Marcus packed his tools, looking at her face. "Storms happen. We fix what breaks. That's what engineers do." "Scifi do not fix," she said. "We heal." He thought about that word. Maybe it's the same thing. For the first time she smiled, very slightly. Perhaps. When the work was done, they walked together toward the edge of the district. The twin suns were sinking behind the horizon, painting the sky with soft orange and violet light. Wind moved through the crystal towers, making them sing faintly. It was a strange sound, half wind chime, half whisper. Marcus paused to listen. "Beautiful," he murmured. Lyra stopped too. "You find music in wind?" "I find peace in it," he said. "Reminds me that not everything needs to make sense to be good." She looked at him again, as if seeing something unexpected. "Few humans stay long enough to listen." "I like quiet places," he replied. "Machines, wind, stars, they don't argue." Lyra's gaze softened. "Then perhaps you will fit here better than others." Marcus wasn't sure why, but those words made his chest feel warm. He nodded, unsure what to say next. Thank you for the help today. It was not help, she said, her eyes shining faintly in the fading light. It was a beginning. Head until they sing properly again. He set down his tools. Then I guess I'll help them sing. She tilted her head slightly, and for a moment he thought she might laugh. Instead, she nodded. You listen better than most humans. They worked in silence for a while. Marcus had begun to understand her methods. She didn't rush. She touched each connection like it was delicate, as if a single careless move could hurt it. He found himself matching her rhythm, careful and patient. He even started to notice the soft tones she heard, the quiet hum that changed with every adjustment. During a break, he sat on a low step, wiping sweat from his forehead. Lyra stood nearby, watching the sky through the open ceiling. The Scifi district was full of light arches that caught sunlight and split it into colors. It made the air shimmer like water. Marcus followed her gaze. You like it here? This place remembers peace, she said, even if its people forget. That's beautiful, he said without thinking. She turned her head, and her silver eyes seemed to reflect every color around them. Do humans always speak so freely? She asked. Maybe too freely sometimes, he admitted. We say what we feel. That is dangerous, she said, but her voice was soft, not harsh. Feelings can cause storms, he smiled faintly. Maybe, but storms make new things grow. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she sat beside him, careful not to touch. On my world, storms mean endings, she said quietly. When the sky burns green, we hide and pray for balance to return. Marcus listened. Sounds like you've seen a lot. I have seen what happens when harmony breaks, she replied. Her gaze turned toward the energy towers beyond the district. It is why I build art now, to remind myself that creation is kinder than control. He nodded slowly. I like that. They sat together in silence, the hum of the colony filling the air. For the first time, Lyra seemed less like an alien, and more like someone just trying to hold her world together. He understood that feeling. He had joined the Frontier projects for the same reason, to fix what was broken even when it wasn't his fault. Later that day, they visited the outer generators. The wind there was strong, and the air carried dust from the lower mines. As they checked the stabilizers, Lyra's long robe fluttered in the breeze, the crystal threads shining like tiny stars. Marcus tightened a loose bolt while she adjusted the crystal links. They worked easily together now without needing many words. When the last light turned steady blue, she looked at him. The energy flows correctly now. Then we did it, he said with a grin. We did, she answered. You are learning harmony. He wiped his hands. I had a good teacher. She looked away quickly, and for a moment he thought she might be hiding a smile. The soft glow from the panels made her markings shine faintly against her skin. He didn't say anything more. Something in the quiet between them felt fragile, like a note in the air that shouldn't be broken. As they returned to the main hall, a few Scifi watched them. Marcus could feel their eyes following him, though no one said a word. He could tell they didn't like seeing a human working so closely with one of their own. He kept his head down and said nothing. Lyra noticed, but she walked with calm dignity, ignoring the stares. When they reached the edge of the human zone, she stopped. You should be careful, she said softly. Many here do not understand friendship between our kinds. He looked at her. I don't care what they understand. You helped me. That's what matters. She studied him for a long moment. You speak as if kindness is simple. It is, he said. People just make it complicated. Lyra's expression softened again. Perhaps humans see truth in places where Scifi see risk. Or maybe we just like to take chances, he said lightly. She lowered her eyes, but he saw the faint curve of her lips. Be careful with your chances, Marcus Hale. He nodded, not sure why her words felt heavier than they sounded. I'll see you tomorrow? Yes, she said. Tomorrow the upper lights must be tested. They will need both harmony and strength, he smiled. Then I'll bring both. As he walked back toward his quarters, he glanced over his shoulder. She was still standing there, her robe fluttering slightly in the wind, watching him go. The blue glow of the Scifi lights shimmered around her like a quiet halo. He didn't know why, but something about her calm presence made the endless colony sky seem low. Yes, she said, her long fingers brushing over one of the cracks. It was a song in crystal. Now it is broken. He crouched beside her. Maybe I can fix it. I have a few tools that might help. You do not understand its design, she replied gently. It is not built from measurements or blueprints. Then tell me how it feels, he said. I'll try to match that. She gave him a long, thoughtful look. Then she nodded once. Together they began working. Lyra adjusted the inner lines while Marcus carefully reattached the outer shards. As they worked, the sculpture began to pulse again with soft light like a heartbeat returning. When it finally shone bright and whole, Lyra stepped back. Her eyes glimmered faintly. It lives again, she whispered. Marcus smiled. Looks like harmony and engineering can work together after all. Her gaze lingered on him. You see more than most, she said. You listen to things that are not made of sound. He laughed quietly. Maybe that's why machines like me. I don't talk too much. Humans talk with their hearts, not just their mouths, she said softly. It is why your kind both fascinates and frightens mine. He tilted his head. Why frightens? Because your feelings are not hidden, she replied. You give them easily. The Scifi fear such openness, Marcus thought about that. Where I come from, hiding feelings makes people lonely. Loneliness is safer, she said. But not better, he answered gently. She looked at him again, her eyes uncertain. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them felt fragile, like glass warmed by sunlight. Then a faint sound echoed from nearby, the soft murmur of voices. Marcus turned and saw two Scifi watching from a distance. Their expressions were unreadable. When they noticed him looking, they stepped away silently. Lyra's calm expression faded a little. They do not mean harm, she said quietly, but they do not approve. Because I'm human? He asked. Because you are different, she said, her voice careful. They think closeness brings imbalance. Do you think that too? He asked. She hesitated. I think balance is not as fragile as they believe. Her words made something warm rise in his chest. He nodded slowly. Then we'll keep working. Let them think what they want. She didn't answer, but the corner of her mouth lifted slightly. It was the smallest smile, yet it felt brighter than the lights around them. That evening, when their work ended, they walked together toward the ridge to watch the sunset. The sky was full of soft colors, lavender, gold, and pale blue blending together. The colony below looked peaceful for once. Marcus sat on a flat stone while Lyra stood nearby, her robe catching the wind. He watched her quietly for a moment, then said, I've seen sunsets on 6 different worlds. None look like this. Each world sings its own color, she said softly. You must listen with your eyes, he smiled. You always say things that sound like poetry. I only speak truth, she said. You just hear it differently. He looked up at her, wondering how someone so different could feel so familiar. You know, I think you'd like Earth, he said. Lots of colors, too. Blue skies, green forests, oceans that go on forever. She turned toward him. Water without end, she whispered. That sounds like a dream. It's real, he said. I'll show you one day. Her eyes widened slightly. You would take a Scifi to your world? Why not, he said. You've shown me yours. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked out at the horizon, her expression soft and far away. For a long moment, they just stood there in silence, watching the light fade into night. When he finally walked back to his quarters, Marcus felt something strange. It wasn't just admiration or curiosity anymore. It was deeper, like a song he couldn't stop hearing in his mind. Lyra had become part of his thoughts in a way that felt natural, like she belonged there. But in another part of the colony, others were already whispering. A Scifi working closely with a human was something their elders would not ignore, and in the shadows of the council hall a quiet decision was forming, one that neither Marcus nor Lyra knew about yet. For now, though the stars rose quietly over Epsilon Ridge, and a human and an alien stood beneath them, not yet realizing how fragile the peace between their two hearts and their two worlds had become. A heavy silence settled over Epsilon Ridge the next morning. Clouds drifted low, tinted silver by the rising suns. Marcus could feel the tension before anyone said a word. The colony's air carried a strange stillness, like something unseen was about to break. He walked toward the Scifi district, toolbox in hand, unaware that his visits had already become a quiet topic among both humans and Scifi. When he reached the energy tower, Lyra was waiting, but her posture was different today. She stood straight, her face calm yet distant. You should not have come, she said softly as he approached. Marcus stopped. Something wrong? There are whispers, she replied. The council thinks our work together has become Too close. They say the balance of trust might be broken. He frowned. We're just fixing circuits, Lyra, that's all. To them, it is not that simple, she said. They see what they wish to see. Marcus sighed, setting his tools down beside the tower. Well, they're wrong. We've done nothing but make this place better. Lyra's eyes softened slightly. I believe that. But belief does not quiet fear. He looked at her, wanting to argue, but her tone carried no anger, only quiet sadness. If they want to stop me from helping, they can tell me themselves, he said firmly. You should not challenge them, she whispered. You are a guest here. And you? He asked. What do they call you for working with me? She looked away. A dreamer. A fool who forgets the old songs. He shook his head slowly. Then maybe the old songs need new verses. For a moment she stared at him as if trying to understand something she couldn't quite name. Then she turned toward the power conduit. There is much to repair before the next storm, she said quietly. They worked side by side again, but the usual peace between them felt heavier now. Every movement carried unspoken words. Marcus wanted to say more, to tell her he didn't care what anyone thought, but he could see the worry in her eyes. He knew she carried the weight of her people's judgment in silence. As the suns reached their highest point, dark clouds began forming on the horizon. The sky flickered faintly with distant lightning. Lyra glanced upward. The plasma winds are coming earlier than expected. How bad can it get? Marcus asked. Bad enough to silence this colony, she said. We must secure the lines before the storm hits. They rushed through the narrow alleys of glowing structures, locking down panels and sealing conduits. The wind began to howl, carrying dust and static. The Scifi buildings hummed louder, their energy fields fighting to hold steady. Marcus's communicator crackled with human voices shouting orders across the base. When they reached the last tower near the ridge, the storm was already upon them. Bright streaks of electric light twisted through the clouds. The ground shook as energy rippled through the sky. We have to shut down the main relay, Marcus shouted over the roar. Lyra's robe whipped in the wind, glowing faintly as she climbed the steps to the upper panel. The controls are overloaded, she called back. It must be disconnected manually. Marcus started climbing after her, the wind stinging his face. You can't do it alone. She looked down, eyes shining through the storm. Go back, Marcus. But he kept climbing. The wind screamed louder and the tower swayed slightly. Together they reached the control plate. Sparks leapt around them as the energy surged dangerously close. Marcus grabbed a tool and twisted the connector free while Lyra guided the flow of power, her hands glowing faintly as she redirected the charge. With a sudden flash, the lights dimmed. The main relay shut down. Silence filled the air, broken only by the soft hum of backup power. Marcus exhaled and looked at her. You okay? She nodded slowly, breathing hard. It is done. Lightning cracked across the sky, lighting her face for a brief moment. She was trembling slightly but stood tall. He reached out, steadying her shoulder. You didn't have to risk yourself like that. She looked at his hand, then at his eyes. You risked yourself for me first, she said quietly. Harmony must be shared or it dies. They stayed there until the worst of the storm passed. When they finally climbed down, the colony was dark but safe. The energy grid had survived again. Later that evening, after the storm had quieted, they sat in a maintenance tunnel, resting in the dim glow of emergency lights. Marcus leaned back against the wall, still catching his breath. Lyra sat beside him, her hands folded in her lap, eyes reflecting the faint blue light. You know, he said softly, I didn't mean to cause trouble for you. You did not, she replied. The trouble was already waiting. It only needed a reason. He smiled faintly. Then I'll give them better reasons. Like saving their entire grid twice in a week. Her lips curved in a small smile. You think bravery will silence fear? No, he said. But it makes fear less important. They sat quietly for a long time. The tunnel air smelled faintly of dust and ozone. Lyra finally spoke again, her voice soft. When the storm came, I thought the light would take us both. But it didn't, he said. We're still here. Yes, she whispered. Still here. When he turned to look at her, the light reflected off the delicate lines on her face, and for a heartbeat everything around them faded. The sound of machines, the echo of wind, the distance between their two worlds. There was only the quiet rhythm of breath and the faint glow of shared warmth. Neither of them said another word. They didn't need to. Something unseen had changed between them that day. Not spoken, not promised, but real, like the first note of a song that had just begun. Outside, the night wind moved across the ridge, carrying the faint hum of Ripai Arathi woman, about the storm they faced together, and about how she had risked herself to save him. Marcus could feel the change the moment he stepped out of his quarters. People didn't greet him like before. Some whispered when he passed. Others just looked away. He ignored it as best he could. He had never cared much for gossip, and he wasn't about to start now. When he reached the Sarathi district, he found Lyra waiting near the Bridge of Light, her hands clasped together. She looked calm, but there was a quiet tension in her eyes. "The council called for me," she said softly. "They question why I continue to work beside a human." Marcus frowned. "You told them we were fixing the grid, right?" "I told them truth," she replied. "But truth is not always what others wish to hear." He stepped closer. "And what do you want to do?" Her eyes lifted to meet his. "I want the light to keep shining. But sometimes keeping light means standing in shadow." Marcus looked at her carefully. "You think they'll try to stop you?" "I think they already decided to," she said. The words hit him harder than he expected. He didn't want to lose this connection. The quiet talks, the shared laughter, the peace that came whenever she stood near him. "Then let them come to me," he said. "They have no right to blame you for being kind." Lyra shook her head slightly. "Humans speak of rights. Sarathi speak of duty. My duty is to protect harmony, not to fight for myself." He wanted to argue, but her calm voice stopped him. She looked out over the ridge where the colony stretched below. "I learned something from you," she said quietly. "That sometimes harmony is not silence. It is the courage to let the heart speak." Marcus smiled faintly. "You make it sound poetic." "Perhaps it is," she said. "Perhaps all true things are." They walked along the ridge together, checking the towers after the storm. The air was crisp, filled with the faint scent of ozone and dust. The valley glowed with silver mist. Lyra moved gracefully, her robes catching the light. Marcus watched her, trying not to think about how peaceful she looked, how every gesture seemed to belong to the rhythm of the world around her. When they reached the far tower, she stopped. The wind brushed through her hair, making the silver markings shimmer faintly. Marcus bent down to check the circuits, then looked up and caught her watching him. For a moment they both stood still, neither speaking. He smiled nervously. "What?" "You look different today," she said softly. "Your eyes carry too many thoughts." He laughed quietly. "Maybe I've been thinking too much." "About what?" "About you," he said before he could stop himself. Her eyes widened slightly, the pale light reflecting in them. She didn't move or speak, only watched him with quiet surprise. He took a slow breath. "Lyra, I know you said humans speak too freely, but I can't help it. You've been kind to me since the first day I came here. You made this strange world feel like home." She lowered her gaze, her voice barely above a whisper. "You should not say such things." "Why not?" he asked gently. "Because I mean them?" She turned away, the wind catching the edge of her robe. "Among my people, words shape truth. To call someone kind is respect. To speak more is a promise." Marcus hesitated, then stepped closer. "Then I'll be careful with my words." For a long moment there was only the sound of the wind between them. Then he reached out, brushing a bit of dust from her cheek. His hand trembled slightly as he spoke. "You're beautiful." Lyra went still. Completely still. Even the faint hum of the tower seemed to fade. Her breath caught as her eyes widened, reflecting the twin suns. For the Sarathi, that word was sacred, used only in vows, whispered only to one's chosen companion. She didn't speak. She didn't move. Her heart felt like light trapped in crystal. Marcus blinked, realizing something had changed, though he didn't yet understand what. "Lyra," he said softly, "I didn't mean to." She turned slowly toward him, her voice almost trembling. "Do you know what you just said?" "I think so," he answered. "I said the truth." Her hands pressed lightly together as if she was holding something fragile. "Among my people, that word is never spoken lightly. It means you see the soul, not the form." He nodded. "Then it's the right word." She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to steady her breath. "Marcus, you should not have said that. It binds meaning. It cannot be taken back," he smiled softly. "Good. I don't want to take it back." When she opened her eyes again, they shone like polished glass under sunlight. For a moment she looked afraid, but beneath the fear there was something else too, something like wonder. You do not understand what this means for me, she whispered. Maybe not, he said. But I know how I feel when I see you. And I think that matters. Silence stretched between them, full of things neither could explain. Lyra's gaze softened, her voice barely audible. When a Sarathi hears those words, she must answer with truth of her own. But I cannot speak yet. My heart is not ready for what it would promise. Marcus nodded. Then I'll wait. No rush, just don't walk away. She looked at him for a long time, her silver eyes shimmering with unspoken thoughts. Finally, she whispered, You have changed the song between us, human. Then I hope it's a good song, he said gently. She turned toward the horizon, her expression quiet but full of light. It is one I will remember, she said softly, even if it must be sung in secret. The two of them stood together beneath the fading suns, the wind wrapping around them like soft music. Neither spoke again, but in that silence, something real and fragile began to live. A bond made of truth, light, and a single human word that would echo across both their hearts long after the suns had set. The next day began quietly, but the silence felt heavier than before. A strange tension moved through the colony like slow wind before rain. Marcus could sense that something had changed. When he walked into the Sarathi district, the guards at the Bridge of Light stopped him. They stood tall, their silver eyes calm but cold. One of them spoke in a careful voice. Human, you cannot pass. The council is meeting, Marcus frowned. I'm supposed to check the relay circuits with Lyra. She will not be working today, the guard said simply. He wanted to argue, but their still faces told him it was useless. He stepped back, frustration tight in his chest. Fine, he said quietly. Tell her I asked if she's okay. They didn't answer. He turned and walked away, his mind full of questions. What had happened? Did someone see them at the tower? Did his words cause trouble for her? He couldn't stop replaying that moment in his mind. Her stillness, her voice trembling when she said his word carried meaning. Hours passed slowly. The suns rose higher, then began to sink again. The air was hot and dry, filled with faint sounds from the workshops. Marcus finally went to the edge of the ridge where the human and Sarathi sides met. From there, he could see the council hall glowing faintly blue in the distance. Figures moved inside, their robes shining like glass under light. He could not hear them, but he didn't need to. He knew they were speaking about her. About him. Lyra stood before the council with her hands clasped in front of her. The great chamber was filled with the soft hum of energy crystals. Around her, the elders watched in silence. Their eyes were calm, but their expressions carried judgment. Lyra of the Sarathi, the elder at the center spoke. You have been seen working with the human too closely. You shared sacred speech with one not of our kind. Do you deny this? Lyra's heart beat slowly, like the echo of distant thunder. I do not deny it, she said quietly. I spoke with him and he with me. The hall whispered with low voices. The elder continued. You know the meaning of such words. To call another beautiful is not for strangers. It binds hearts and spirit. You have let an outsider touch the sacred. She raised her eyes calmly. He did not know our ways. His heart spoke what it felt. He meant no insult. Meaning is not the question, said another elder. Balance is. You have placed yourself between two worlds. Lyra bowed her head. Perhaps that is where bridges must stand. The elders exchanged glances. Bridges can break, one said. And when they do, both sides fall. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the chamber. Then the eldest among them said, You will step away from the human. The bond must end before it grows deeper. Lyra looked down, her heart heavy. She thought of the human's eyes, his gentle voice, the way he had stood beside her in storms. Her silence was her answer. That evening, Marcus sat outside his quarters staring at the stars. He felt restless, uneasy. The wind had grown colder. He wanted to see her, to know she was fine, but the Sarathi sidear remained closed. He stayed there until he saw a faint figure moving across the bridge of light. It was her. She approached quietly, her robe flowing in the dim glow. Marcus stood up at once. Lyra, he said, relief in his voice. I was worried. I came to speak before I am forbidden, she said softly. Her voice trembled slightly, though her face stayed calm. He stepped closer. Forbidden? What do you mean? The council has ordered me to end our work, she said. They say I have broken sacred balance. He stared at her, disbelief in his eyes. Because I called you beautiful? Yes, she whispered. That word is a vow to us. It binds spirit to spirit. They believe it changes what we are. He ran a hand through his hair, sighing deeply. Then tell them it meant something good. Something honest. They do not understand honesty when it crosses worlds, she said. They fear what they cannot name. Marcus looked at her helplessly. So this is it? We just stop seeing each other? She lowered her eyes. They think it will keep peace. But peace built on silence is only waiting for another storm. He took a slow breath. And what do you want, Lyra? She looked up, her eyes glowing faintly under the night sky. I want to believe that a word of truth cannot destroy harmony. Then believe it, he said softly. Because I do. For a moment she just looked at him, her expression full of quiet sorrow. If I stay, she whispered, they may exile me from the light. I would lose my place among my people. He stepped closer, his voice steady. And if you leave, you'll lose yourself. You said creation is kinder than control. Don't let them control who you can care for. Her eyes shimmered with emotion. She wanted to speak, but her throat tightened. The wind brushed against them, carrying the soft hum of the bridge beneath their feet. Finally, she whispered, I will go before the council again tomorrow. I will speak for what I believe. Whatever happens after, it will be truth. Marcus nodded slowly. Then I'll be there. Even if I can't stand beside you, I'll be there. She turned to go, then paused and looked back at him. When you said I was beautiful, she said softly, the word changed something inside me. It frightened me at first, but now I think it also freed me. He smiled faintly. Then I'm glad I said it. Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper. Whatever comes tomorrow, remember this. Truth is never lost, even when the world tries to silence it. He wanted to answer, but she had already turned away, her robe catching the wind as she walked back across the glowing bridge. Marcus stood there long after she disappeared, the light fading beneath his feet. Above him, the stars shimmered quietly, as if waiting to see what would happen when the morning came. The morning came with a soft light over Epsilon Ridge. A gentle wind moved across the glowing valley, carrying the sound of the colony waking up. The sky was pale gold, the kind of quiet beauty that came only after long storms. But inside both the human and Sarathi quarters, people whispered about what would happen that day. The council was gathering again. This time, the decision would be final. Marcus stood near the ridge, watching the light bridge shimmer between the two worlds. His heart felt heavy yet hopeful. He had not slept much. All night he had replayed their last conversation, hearing Lyra's calm voice telling him that truth could not be lost. He didn't know what the council would do, but he knew she would not walk away quietly. When the suns climbed higher, the great hall of the Sarathi opened its crystal gates. Lyra entered alone. The council members sat in a circle, their robes flowing like liquid glass. The air inside the hall was calm, filled with the faint hum of energy. Everyone turned as she walked to the center. Her steps were slow but sure. Her face looked peaceful, though her heart beat fast. Lyra of the Sarathi, the eldest counselor began, you stand before us again. We asked for silence, yet you continued to meet the human. You defied our word. Lyra bowed her head respectfully. I did not defy you, she said softly. I followed truth. The human meant no harm. His word was not a vow from ignorance, it was a gift from courage. Courage? One of them repeated. You call the carelessness of an outsider courage? Lyra looked up, her silver eyes shining. He spoke what he saw without fear. He saw light where others saw difference. He reminded me that beauty is not a promise, it is a recognition of spirit. A quiet murmur filled the room. The eldest spoke again. And what does that mean to you? It means harmony cannot live behind walls, she said. If our peace requires silence and fear, it is not true peace. It is only stillness waiting to break. Her words echoed softly through the hall. Some of the elders looked uncertain. Others kept their eyes lowered. The eldest counselor finally said, You have chosen to believe in him more than in your people. Lyra took a breath. I have chosen to believe that truth can belong to both. Outside the hall, Marcus waited near the light bridge. He could not see what was happening inside, but he felt every heartbeat like it was his own. Several humans had gathered nearby, curious but quiet. Even a few Sarathi stood along the edge, their faces unreadable. Everyone was waiting for the outcome. Inside, the council remained silent for a long time. Then the eldest spoke again. Lyra, your words are strong, but they break our law. We cannot change the old meanings of sacred speech. Lyra looked up calmly. Then perhaps it is not the words that must change, but the hearts that hold them. The chamber fell silent again. Outside, the light of the suns touched the high crystal roof, scattering colors across the hall like living fire. The eldest stood holding the council's staff of light. If you choose this path, you will no longer serve under the Sarathi order. You will live beyond our law. The human world may claim you if they wish. Lyra bowed her head. Then let it be so. The decision was made. The guards stepped aside and the great doors opened. Light poured in, blinding for a moment. Marcus saw her figure appear through the brightness. She walked slowly down the steps, her robe catching the sunlight, her face calm and full of strange peace. He ran to meet her halfway across the bridge. Lyra, what happened? She looked at him, her eyes soft but sure. I am no longer part of their circle, she said. But I am free to build new harmony. Marcus stared at her, unsure what to say. You gave up everything, he whispered. She shook her head gently. Not everything. I kept what matters, the truth you helped me see. He felt a tightness in his chest. I don't know what to say. Then say nothing, she said with a small smile. The heart understands silence better than words. They stood together as the suns crossed the sky. Around them something began to change. The humans who had gathered near the bridge came closer, watching the Sarathi who now stood in quiet wonder. None of them spoke, but a slow understanding passed through the crowd. The bridge between the two worlds shimmered brighter, responding to the shared presence of both races. Lyra lifted her hand toward the light controls at the bridge's center. The crystals glowed warmer, spreading color across the valley. This bridge was built for trade, she said softly, loud enough for both sides to hear. Now it will stand for understanding. Marcus watched as the lights shifted, weaving patterns that mixed human engineering and Sarathi harmony. The sound it made was gentle, like a song carried by wind. For a moment, everyone was still, human and Sarathi alike, watching the beauty of something neither side could have made alone. When the lights settled, Marcus turned to her. You really did it, he said quietly. We did, she corrected him. No bridge stands alone, he smiled. So what now? Now, she said, we build. They stood together as the suns began to set. The valley shimmered with gold and violet light. In the distance, both species worked side by side to finish repairing what the storm had broken. For the first time, laughter and calm voices mixed freely in the air. Lyra looked toward the horizon, her silver markings glowing faintly. Among my people, she said. To call someone beautiful is to see the soul that shines beneath the form. When you spoke that word, I thought it was a mistake, but now I know it was a beginning. Marcus met her gaze, smiling gently. Then I'm glad I said it. She turned toward the bridge of light, her expression calm and full of quiet wonder. You humans, she whispered. You change the world not by strength, but by seeing beauty where others see walls. As the last rays of sunlight touched the bridge, the crystals pulsed softly in harmony. Marcus and Lyra stood side by side, two souls from different worlds, their reflections shining together in the glowing surface beneath their feet. For the first time, Epsilon Ridge felt truly alive, a place not divided by difference, but connected by courage, kindness, and the simple truth spoken by one human heart.